Hi, it's Dr. Steve from Misericordia University, and welcome to this video dealing with Universal Design in Learning, also known as UDL. This video is part of our graduate program and the course dealing with instructional design. In this video, let's get an overview of Universal Design for Learning. Let's consider what is UDL and what are the implications of UDL for instruction and also for assessment. Then let's conclude this video for our graduate students by taking a brief look at our remote activities for the week. The organization responsible for creating the Universal Design for Learning framework, which is also known as UDL, is CAST. CAST is a nonprofit educational research and development organization. In addition to UDL, they also created the UDL guidelines, which are now used the world over by instructors and instructional designers to make learning more inclusive. The acronym CAST derives from the original name of the organization, the Center for Applied Special Technology. Now, the organization is simply known as CAST, and the letters no longer represent an acronym. According to CAST, Universal Design for Learning is defined as a framework to improve and optimize teaching and learning for all people based on scientific insights into how humans learn. In essence, UDL provides a blueprint for creating instructional goals, methods, materials, and assessments that work for everyone. It's not a single one-size-fits-all solution, but rather flexible approaches that can be customized and adjusted for individual needs in order to reach all learners. The UDL guidelines represent a tool that's used in the implementation of Universal Design for Learning. These guidelines offer a set of concrete suggestions that can be applied to any discipline or domain to ensure that all learners can access and participate in meaningful, challenging learning opportunities. The chart you're looking at is a robust tool that presents the many dimensions of applying UDL in learning situations. Realize that these guidelines are updated quite frequently to reflect the latest research. You can view this tool by navigating to udlguidelines.cast.org. As displayed in the UDL Guidelines tool, UDL can be divided into three primary dimensions. The first involves engagement. Provide multiple means for engaging learners to motivate, challenge, and interest learners in the material. The UDL folks call this the why of learning. In other words, we want to show students why this is important and draw them into the learning. The goal is to produce purposeful and motivated learners. The second dimension deals with representation of content. Present information and content in multiple ways. The UDL people refer to this as the what of learning. So we're presenting information. We know that different learners learn in different ways. There's different modalities of learning. There's different learning styles. So UDL calls for us to provide multiple means of representation of that content that we're going to share. The goal is to produce resourceful and knowledgeable learners. The third and final dimension of UDL deals with action and expression. Provide multiple ways for students to demonstrate what they have learned. Again, the UDL folks refer to this as the how of learning. Can you go away from veer from traditional means, paper and pencil, quizzes and tests, and papers. Is there another way? Are there additional ways that you can engage students in this content and let them show what they have learned? The goal here is to produce strategic and goal-directed learners. Let's elaborate on and explore these three dimensions a little deeper. The first one, stimulate engagement, interest, and motivation for learning. Draw the learner's attention and pique their interest. Provide a sense of learner control and choice, because students often learn better when they feel they have some control over their learning. Show learners the relevance and the value of the content to be learned. Help them see how this content is important to them, and thus inspire motivation to focus on the material. Learning is a social activity, meaning that it usually does not happen in the absence of others. Foster collaboration and community, therefore, to support effective learning. Work to reduce any potential barriers to learning. And then vary activities so that they can be culturally relevant, socially relevant, age and ability appropriate, and appropriate to different races, cultures, ethnics, and gender groups. Here are a few practical ideas of how you can apply the UDL concepts to stimulate motivation and provide multiple means of engagement for learners. Provide some context so learners realize the relevance and the importance and the significance of the content to them. Select media that display diversity. Employ multiple activities and methods to teach the same topic, knowing that different methods and activities will appeal to different individual learners. Consider teaching using different platforms and different tools to vary the way in which you present that content. To support the second dimension of UDL, provide multiple means of representation. Illustrate concepts through multiple media in different ways. The main idea is to present content in multiple ways. Don't just stick to one means of teaching or illustrating content. To help make the content relevant to learners and to build their motivation to learn, present background knowledge, which will support students in scaffolding what they are learning. And as you are presenting content, UDL reminds us to offer alternatives for auditory and visual information for students with differing abilities. Clarify vocabulary, symbols, and acronyms to support full understanding of the content. Highlight patterns, critical features, those big ideas in the content. And also highlight relationships to maximize the transfer of this knowledge and the generalization of these concepts. To support the second dimension of UDL, provide content in multiple ways. Again, don't teach using only one method, technique, or medium. Educators know that people learn and prefer to learn in different ways. Use different ways to present content. Use text, graphics, video, audio, and other ways. Remember that UDL does not call for a one-size-fits-all approach to apply to all learners equally. Rather, UDL calls for a robust solution consisting of different ways of teaching. And through this diversity of presentation, you will reach more learners effectively. To support the third dimension of UDL, provide multiple means for student expression. Allow learners to respond and demonstrate their learning through various media. Unless the medium is essential to the material, allow learners to use different apps, different tools, different software. Give them latitude to choose how they individually can demonstrate mastery of the content. Some students will benefit from the use of spell checkers, grammar checkers, word prediction software. Others will perform better with access to text-to-speech software, human dictation, or recording. Further, help students learn to monitor and assess their own learning and progress. Provide differentiated models of self-assessment strategies. Some students will be more successful using role-playing or reviewing videos or giving and receiving peer feedback. Look at all of the items listed on this screen. Each item is another way that students could use as a means of expression. Allow students more than one way to respond or express their understanding of material. There are so many ways beyond written assignments, written quizzes, tests, and reports. If learners have a choice in how they can experience content and demonstrate understanding of the content, the learning will likely be more relevant to them, the learning will likely be more effective for them, and they will ultimately perform better in assessment. Now, let's briefly consider the application of UDL specifically in assessing learners. To begin with, if your learning goals are clear, assessments should align with the learning goals to ensure they measure whether learners have achieved those intended goals. As described in the Dick and Carey instructional design model, you could ideally design assessments alongside writing learning goals to ensure that you are measuring the intended goals of learning. Rubrics are effective in making the goals and expectations of an assignment explicit to the learners. Rubrics can serve as a baseline for what is required. Clear communication of expectations through a rubric can also allow for consistent measurement of intended goals. Ensure that assessment is personally relatable and culturally relevant to students. Provide opportunities for learners to apply new knowledge to novel situations and relatable experiences. A teacher should use frequent and ongoing formative assessment during instruction. Further, a teacher should use information from formative assessments to influence instructional decisions. A teacher could use an exit ticket, which is a fast and formal means of having students respond to a question or two before they leave class. Or they can use a journal entry or a quick poll, such as an electronic student response system or the low-tech paper version called Plickers. Assessment may pose additional barriers or challenges for certain learners. A teacher can provide practice assessments, review guides, flexible timing, access to assistive technologies, or access to support resources that could potentially help all learners. Assessments can be designed using the UDL principles of multiple means of engagement, representation, and action and expression. Provide different ways for learners to demonstrate what they have learned beyond some of the traditional means, such as paper and pencil test only. Providing multiple means of engagement can support learner interest, motivation, and persistence. Students' performance on assessments can be enhanced by increasing engagement. Help students realize first that they can be successful in assessment. You can design assessments to provide different levels of challenge. Provide options on essay exams so that students can choose a question they feel they can answer well. Provide options as to how students respond to questions. For example, with an essay question, maybe give the option for students to write a traditional essay, or create a short play, or create a video response. Different formats used for assessments over time in a course will benefit individual students because the demands and benefits of any one form of assessment will differ for each student. Providing multiple means of action and expression, which UDL people call the how of learning, means providing different ways for students to work with information and content and to demonstrate what they are learning. So for example, can you have students write, Can you have them draw something instead? Maybe that's an option for them. Can you have other ways in which learners can demonstrate what they have learned, ways that are beyond some of the traditional means? Further, if learners have to organize information mentally, can you provide a support tool for students so that they can gain help in organizing the information? For example, maybe using concept mapping software. Providing multiple means of representation means presenting information and content in different ways to support learners making connections between elements of content. Consider presenting information and assessments using different media, certainly text, but maybe also utilize graphs, charts, images, possibly videos, demonstrations, or even objects to manipulate. And those objects could be, of course, for in-person, they could be physical, or for online, they could be utilizing some type of online environment, some software or app. Also, always be aware that certain barriers may be created by the ways in which items are presented on assessments. So remember to utilize accessibility options to assist students whose style and whose needs and abilities are different. So, to review and wrap up applying UDL, as you develop instruction, consider those three different dimensions of UDL. Engagement. Use various media and different techniques. Provide multiple means to engage learners, motivate them, interest them, make the content relevant to them, challenge them, and get them generally interested in the content. Representation. When teaching, seek to present information and content in multiple ways via various media in order to address all the learners in that class. And demonstration. For assessments, provide multiple ways and different options for students to demonstrate that they have truly learned that content and have met those objectives. Now, let's wrap up this video by taking a look at the remote activities for our graduate students. Let's wrap up this video by taking a look at the remote activities planned for our graduate class. The first activity will involve holding a discussion on insights from two short videos. The first video is the ADDIE analysis phase. The second video is how to perform an instructional analysis for a particular procedure. Notice that both of these are short videos, but they will reinforce what we considered in this video, and they will give you different ways and different examples in terms of considering, approaching, and performing a task/instructional analysis. After you view these two short videos, let's hold an online discussion to see what insights we can gain from them. For our second remote activity, let's hold a discussion board in which we will call Perfecting Your Task Analysis, a team effort. As with the learner analysis and needs assessment from last week's class, this week let's do the same thing, but this time with the task analysis. Let's work together to perfect our task analysis in a team effort. On the discussion board, start by posting your task analysis. Then, let's open up to peer review and discussion. After viewing the postings, comment on the task analysis of at least two others. As appropriate, offer constructive comments, including praise and criticism. Ask questions for clarification if needed. Describe if a learner could successfully complete the task by just following this task analysis. Redesign and adjust your task analysis based on the comments that you view, and repost if you feel you need to. Ultimately, your task analysis will be formally assessed as part of the high-level design part of our final project. In class, we examine universal design in learning and took a look at the Universal Design Guidelines. I provided some guiding questions to spark our conversation. I don't feel that you have to address each question, but rather as a group, we will address all of these points. As we will be using Blackboard discussion as a wiki versus a true discussion, there's no need to formally respond to others. However, if you're inspired by the content and you're moved to comment on others, then certainly feel free to discuss. And finally, UDL prompts teachers to utilize different assessment formats because the demands and the benefits of any one form of assessment will differ for each student. Thus, incorporating UDL into assessment is an important instructional practice. Let's use a discussion board in Blackboard to generate some ideas of how a teacher can possibly incorporate UDL into assessment. As usual, I've supplied some starter questions to spark this conversation. Don't feel that you have to address each question, because by the end of the discussion, as a group, we will have likely hit on all of these points. And feel free to allow the conversation to move in additional directions. Be sure to respond to the posts of one or two others to generate a positive discussion. I hope you enjoyed learning about the CAST organization, Universal Design for Learning, and how UDL can be applied to the classroom, both face-to-face as well as in online learning. Thanks for watching.